Welcome, 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 welcome. Today is Monday, April 24th, and you are listening to Wake Up Happy Sis on KCCR The Brownstone, where we are changing the narrative for our Black and Brown people by telling our stories our way. I am your host, Leanne Dulce. I'm a self care strategist, and I am just here to help my beautiful Black sisters learn how to wake up happy, sis, how to live their best lives through focusing on themselves, through enhanced self care and self love practices. And that's what we talk about here on this show. We get real, we get raw, we keep it honest, okay? But we also keep it respectful. So, today, we have a special kind of way that I'm going to be running the show. What I'm doing is I'm allowing you, the audience, to drop in and become a guest on the show live. This is live, 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 live. Okay. So, the topic we're talking about today is intimacy and self love as a single person. Our show title, Intimacy Unveiled, Reclaiming Connection and Self-Love in Single Life. This is something that came up to me recently, just in a discussion that I've had with other people, in interactions that I've had. And when we talk about intimacy, we talk about relationships, romantic, but also platonic, because intimacy isn't always just a romantic or sexual thing, right? Um, so I'm going to put the link up. So if anybody, again, this is a drop in live show. So you are free to drop in. I'm going to leave that link up so that people can come on in. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear your wisdom, because you may have the secret to unlocking some healing for somebody else, right? Oh, and look who popped on in with us today. This is our fearless leader over here at
Lord have mercy.
KCCR, the Brownstone, and the Brownstone Worldwide. This is your girl, Paulette.
Hey,
If you've
y'all.
been on any of the listening to KCCR or watching, Paulette is all over the internet streets. Okay.
Yes.
You're going to see her, you're going to hear her all over these internet
Yeah.
streets. So she just dropped in so she can chat with us, because we
Yeah.
all have stories to tell around intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start a little bit by just doing a little grounding, right? In this first segment, I kind of want to talk about understanding intimacy and its importance, even in the realm of being a single person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about intimacy, there's romantic, sexual, but there's also that intimacy that you have that's more familial or that is social, right? Intimacy with your friends, your close friends, and your family. Um, I want to start by just talking about defining intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what does intimacy look like to you?
Okay. Woo. Ask that question again.
What does intimacy mean to you?
Oh.
Or why, if you don't want to answer that one, or why do you think intimacy is important in our lives?
Hmm. This is okay. So intimacy, intimacy. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Let's okay. Wait. Don't shoot the messenger. Um, this is not a challenge for me, y'all. It's really not. Um, Intimacy is a form of self-love, I think. And I can say that from a single person's perspective because you got to love on yourself. So when I think about intimacy, and see, I never thought that that's what I was doing. Taking time by myself, which is something that I enjoy doing first thing in the morning before
Yes.
I get out of the bed. Um, I'm usually up at about 4:30 in the morning, and I am silent for about 30 minutes, chilling. And so it is important for me, and what it means to me is um, I have to center myself for the day because I'm everything for everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning this more and more over the past couple of days that in order for me to pour into anybody, I got to be full first. Because I'm being depleted these past couple of days. It's been woo. And so,
Mm-hmm.
especially this morning, I got up and I said, okay, I'm just going to sit here for a moment. I'm going to tell you something else. Another form of intimacy for myself I'm going to tell my business, a cocktail, a strong one. Um,
Hey.
and listen, I'll get in a nice hot steam and I will steam and I'll have like, you know, here's another form of intimacy. I will have the Love Boat or Miami Vice or something that brings me yesterday happy vibes playing
Okay.
in the background.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah. So those are some of the things that I think are important because we have to learn how to constantly put ourselves first so that we can pour into everything and everybody else throughout our day. And I think as Black women, I think as women, period. Let me stop just saying that because I have homegirls who are not of the African American diaspora, and they dealing with the same thing. We are taking care of everybody, and we want intimacy from someone else. And when we get it, we don't even know how to treat it because
Mm-hmm.
we don't even know what intimacy means to us because we haven't done it for ourselves. So there you
Yes. And I completely agree. I think intimacy has to start with self,
go. Yep.
right? If I can't be intimate and vulnerable, because there's a level of vulnerability that
Yeah.
comes along with being with intimacy, right? So if I'm not able to be vulnerable with myself and open and honest and vulnerable with myself, how can I expect to be able to be vulnerable and open and honest with somebody else or somebody else to be that with me,
Right. Right.
right? So let's just define intimacy.
Okay.
And it's the concept um, involves, and I'm just reading this, y'all, okay, just a mutually consensual relationship where two individuals, now I don't agree that it has to be two individuals, just like we said, intimacy has to start with yourself, but we're going to think intimacy in terms of connection with other people. Um, Two individuals reciprocate intimate moments and feelings of trust, emotional and physical closeness towards each other.
Yeah.
Being intimate with your partner is more than just about the physical interaction between the two of you.
Okay.
So I want to switch a little bit from being intimate with yourself and being vulnerable, right, to actually engaging with somebody else. And I
Okay.
want to start with kind of a little story that kind of happened to me.
Okay.
Um, Now I'm single, I'm very single by choice at this point. But there have
Okay.
also been times when I've been single by force where I wasn't ready,
Yeah.
right? So I have a friend that came to visit, and he is very affectionate. So he's very like he's always like touching on you, rubbing on you. And the first couple of times he did it, one, I'm very ticklish, but
Hmm.
I found myself kind of going like this. And I thought that was a very interesting thing because having been single for so long,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes those initial moments of intimacy with somebody can be a little awkward, or um, we're not used to that level of physical intimacy, right, with
Hmm.
somebody touching on you, rubbing on you, because he asked me about it, and I
Hmm.
was like, I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
So it's something I have to get used to because I live, I live as a single person,
Yeah.
and I ain't out in them streets for everybody.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the first part. I ain't in the streets for everybody.
Yeah. Hmm.
So when it comes to intimacy between you and somebody else, how do you deal with those kind of jumping back into that intimacy um, pool, if you will, when you're
Ooh.
so used to being single?
Asks asks Leanne to the woman that's been single for 13, 14 years. Um, Literally, I've been single that long. By choice. It was because I needed to find me, and I needed to get rid of. I'm gonna go ahead and put this disclaimer out here now. It is not that I don't know about intimacy. I have experienced it with another human being, and it does come down to being vulnerable and having trust that that person is going to protect you in that level of intimacy. I think that needs to be said, but I also think that for me personally, um, I being single as long as I have am more in tune with me. So I believe that going into a relationship now, I would no doubt be open to intimacy at this point because it is something that I ultimately desire, but I ain't looking for it. You know what I mean? Like it's not like my life is gonna fall apart if it doesn't show up. And so intimacy doesn't have to be in a relationship either.
That's
It can just be two people that enjoy each other's company, and there's so many different nuances of intimacy, but it could be intimacy between friends, intimacy between a parent and a child, the care of that person and building that bond, and helping to release oxytocin, during those intimate moments. For me, oh girl, I tap danced all the way around that because
you did, but I wouldn't go say nothing about that.
Leanne, it's because this is the truth. Truth moment is I have been single for so long. It's officially 14 years because KJ is 16 now. I've been single for so long that if I saw it, if it happened to me, I probably would do what you did, which is, what you doing? Get your hands off me. Because I'm so used to, being by myself and really enjoying my own company. And waking up and being happy and free and not worrying about what folks doing and about other people's emotions. So maybe this is a hard one. Yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
think there's a level of healing sometimes that has to happen as well.
Yeah.
And because we've talked about this previously,
Mm-hmm.
um, in all intimacy is not good intimacy.
That part.
There is, and people may not think of it in this term, but there is such a thing as toxic intimacy,
Mm.
forced intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, that can really affect your ability to want to be
Yeah.
intimate with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was, and this has been in the last 5 years. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm an open book,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm very open about my sexuality, about who I am. I'm a part-time nudist.
I
I'm
love it
very
when you say that. It's so funny to me.
I'm like a new generation hippie nudist, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But people take that, and because I'm so free and open in talking about
Yep.
sex and talking
Come on.
about
Talk about
anything,
it. Yep. Yep.
they take that to mean that either I'm easy, I give it up, I'm whatever, I'm open
Yep.
to all
Mm-hmm.
these things. So I go to this
Mm-hmm.
gathering that one of my homeboys invites me to. Now he and I are not sexually anything. We was just cool, right? And he's like, come on over, come through. So we're drinking, we're eating, we're drinking, we're talking, blah blah blah. And it gets late and I'm a little too tipsy to drive. So he was like, well, I got a room upstairs. You can, the owner of the house. I wake up in the middle of the night and I go to the restroom. I come back and I think I see something in the room, but I'm a little tipsy still. So I think I'm tripping. I go back to sleep. His friend, the owner of the house, comes in the morning and In my dreams, I feel somebody touching on me. So things that happen to me in real life always manifest in my dreams. Let me be very clear. If it's happening in real life, it will manifest somewhere in my dreams. I wake up and there's a man I don't know, have never seen, in the room, laid up with me.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the guy opens the door, the man jumps up and runs out. So I can't even tell you what that man looked like.
Wait a minute, what?
You heard me. Forced intimacy.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That's not cool. That's not cool.
Mm-mm.
Now, nothing. He did not um, rape me. He did molest me. He did not rape me. There was no penetration, like, well, I would say like that, right?
But it was still a violation of
But it
your
was still a
religion.
violation.
Absolutely.
And the owner of the house tried to tell me that um, one, I knew the person was up there and I had talked to them. No, I didn't. I didn't talk
There's
to that
that.
man at all. I
Mhm.
know. And they try to blame it on us.
There you go. Yep. I was getting ready to say, oh, there's the blame. There it is. There it is.
If
You
you
know,
force yourself upon me, force intimacy upon me, you cannot blame me
yeah.
because we are all accountable for our own actions.
So do you think that that is one of the things that a lot of women are dealing with? Because I think um,
Yes.
we had this conversation too when we were talking about intimacy and how some of us are dealing with intimacy. Um, for me personally, and this might be why this is not a touchy subject, but it's hard for me to connect because I myself have had situations where um, I was raped. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on out there. Okay. I was assaulted. And I was fresh out of high school and living on my own for the very first time and put myself, I think, what's the word? Put myself in this, not put myself in a situation. I'm gonna stop saying that. Uh,
Right.
I was very, very young. The first time that it happened, I was 16 and it was the pastor of the church. The second time that it happened, and so let me put this in perspective because now we dig. Let's go ahead and dig this hole. Okay. So the first time, hey Tony, how are you? Um, the first time that it happened, I was 16 years old, and this was someone that I trusted, someone that I watched me grow up from a very small little girl, 2, 3 years old. When we started attending the church to being sexually assaulted. Um, And when I reported it, it took me about a week and a half to report it. I'm going somewhere with this. When I finally did report it, um, I remember feeling really dirty. And I remember going home and washing my mouth out and biting on a Brillo pad afterwards. And I actually wanted to take a bath and it felt like nothing would come off.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my family found out about it and they confronted him, see, back then you confronted folks, you didn't call the cops. Okay, that's what black folks was doing back then. So, and it was daddy wouldn't do nothing like that. Pastor when she fast anyway. Look how she built. That's why that's that. Look, also, so now me being sexually assaulted by this old ass man is somehow my fucking fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a problem with that. And so I started doubting and questioning, was my body my own? You know,
Mm-hmm.
because there were people that all of a sudden when they found out about it, when it finally did come out, and the family and I yelled at them and stuff, and they was like, he's still the pastor, you ought not to be yelling at him. He assaulted me, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck him. So that's
Period.
one, period. So then I was fresh out of high school, getting ready to go to college, and it happened again. So growing up as a foster child at a certain age, you have to either the foster family can kind of say, hey, you can stay, whatever. But I was on my way to school,
You
and
gotta
I
go.
moved out you got to go. So I was 17 on my own, and I remember a high school friend of mine said, hey, I got a 2-bedroom apartment. I live above the bank, XYZ. This was in Wisconsin. And he was like, you could share my room, share my extra bedroom, and we could just, share the bills or whatever. I had a little job. I was working at the Boys and Girls Club at the time, didn't have any children, nothing like that. And I remember putting up, like I was telling you before, putting all the decorations up in the room and stuff
Mhm.
like that, laying out my lotion and my hair care products or whatever, unpacking my stuff because it already had a bed in there and it already had a dresser. It was his uncle's establishment, and downstairs was a bank. The bank is no longer there, but the building still is. I can recall that night when I settled and I felt safe because we went to school together.
Yeah, I know you.
I
That
know
that
you.
level of intimacy,
That
that
level
social
of
friend
intimacy
intimacy that you
that
thought you
I thought we had. And I thought we was cool. So I closed my door. I done jumped in the shower, did whatever I was gonna do. I got my pajamas on, little gown, and I go to sleep. About 4 o'clock in the morning, somebody got my hands like this.
Mhm.
He thought it was okay. I was assaulted that night. It hadn't been a year that I had been assaulted before. And when I got up that morning, I remember packing one bag. This is true story. I remember packing one bag with everything that I knew I was going to need. My ID, my little state issued ID, because I wasn't driving. My bus pass for the week. Um, I left, I didn't even leave the key. I took the key with me because I had to lock the door to leave. I took food, and it was like a little satchel bag, like a messenger bag. I remember that. And I left. I left everything. I left my clothes. I left
Mhm.
everything. I left. And I think I started to cover myself, if that makes sense, not with clothes or with things, but I started to cover myself with big clothes. That was the year that that started.
Mhm.
Okay. And you don't want anybody to touch you
Yeah,
because
I don't wanna be noticed. I
I
don't
don't want to
want
be noticed. I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be anything because you think you have a right to my body because of how I'm built, you know, um,
Mhm. I mean, that
how I
concept.
look, and somehow it's our fault. So I think what happens, unfortunately, in certain parts of our community, women are not protected, sisters are not protected. Let's just call it
No.
what it is. And so it's hard for us to open up to intimacy when we have been assaulted so many times, and we feel like who's going to be there. And I've never told anybody. I never called the police. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I did not know. And to this day, this is the first time that I'm saying this publicly. To this day, people that I went to high school with still thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Mhm.
But I know.
But
And
yeah,
I will
I mean, well, and
never.
I could see why you didn't, because the first time you told somebody
Oh,
about
yeah.
it, well, he's the pastor, he's a good man, he would never
Hmm.
do this.
Oh,
It
yeah.
all became your
Absolutely.
fault. And I
Hmm.
think that concept of what I was saying, toxic intimacy, when
Hmm.
somebody forces intimacy upon you, and that doesn't always mean rape,
Right.
molestation,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes people are forcing emotional intimacy
Hmm. Yeah.
on you as well,
Yep.
right? It makes you doubt yourself. And I think as women, as single women, specifically single black women who do not feel protected, who, the concept of intimacy, going into any new intimate relationship, being it a
Hmm.
friend, because I think everybody, and this is not a black thing, it's not a woman thing, everybody has, well, I won't say everybody. A lot of people have probably been stabbed in the back by somebody they thought was their friend,
Come on now. Say it.
right? And you found that you couldn't trust the people closest to you, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's, like you said, those adults that are supposed to be the ones
Hmm.
protecting you.
Yep.
As a community, we don't even feel that there's a relationship with the police and the things that are supposed to be protecting us.
Right.
So how do we as single women kind of embrace intimacy and vulnerability, because there's a level of vulnerability that has to go with being intimate. If I'm
Hmm.
intimate with you on any level, friend, romantic, or even just sexual intimacy, physical, there's a level of vulnerability that I have to be comfortable with.
Yep.
And sometimes there's healing that has to happen behind that because of things that have happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
in
I
our
agree.
earlier periods
I agree.
that make vulnerability. And that's when I realized he was coming up behind me,
Mm.
right? And even though I knew he was there and that was somebody that I was not afraid of being, it did, it was like a, okay, so that was something that I had to deal with. And hey, DJ Tony, how are you this morning? So thank you for dropping in. We're talking about intimacy, self love, and um, as it relates to being single. So, what about you, DJ Tony? What does intimacy mean to you, and why is it important? Um, why do you think it's important in your life?
Okay, first of all, good morning to my two queens. Shout out to DJ Smoking Lou. I see you
Yeah,
in the
we see
chat
you,
room, my
brother.
little brother.
Yeah.
Um, Intimacy. It's That's a very human instinct that's in each and every one of us. Though some of us abuse it, but it's in each and every one of us. You know what I'm saying? For
Mm-hmm.
me, intimacy was the love and affection and care that I received from my mother as an infant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that knowing that everything that I need is coming from this woman right here. So that was my intimacy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, as you so graciously put it, Leanne, being stabbed in the back early on in life created a condition in my mind that made me put up red flags in front of anybody who wanted to show any kind of affection toward me, as far as embracing me, want to kiss me. Whoa, hold them up, bag it up. You know what I'm saying? Whoa, I've been
Yeah.
burned. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
put up those walls, those barriers, and like you said, Leanne, until you personally start tearing down those things from the inside and healing properly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you gotta take that time to heal properly from that. Then you move on into reasserting yourself back into it with caution.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's when you use extreme caution after you've done that healing, because you tell yourself, well, I know I told myself this will never happen to me again. You know, this will never
Mm-hmm.
happen to me again. And to go on what you said, boss lady, it's true. It's true. We've been, as black men, we've been conditioned to not protect our women. And it wasn't by our own standards. You know, we was beaten, broken, bucked. You know, so it's not that we don't want to. It's that we've been so intimidated with fear tactics and stuff like that to where um, we're afraid.
Mm.
And that's just being 100. We are. I'm being 100 for me. I'm speaking for me, from a black man who's seen the brutality of black women. You know, and standing in the shadows, knowing I want to help, but there's nothing I can do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because I was not taught on how to address that type of situation when it comes about. You know what I'm saying? So you can't transmit something that you don't have until you get it. Until you get it, then you elevate and grow from there. But for me, intimacy first and foremost for me starts in the mind.
Mm.
You
Come on
know,
now.
it starts in the
Okay.
mind. You
Okay.
know, and
Okay.
like you said, Leanne, I have to be vulnerable when I do these things, you know, because in that vulnerability, this is where I'm gonna learn: do I really trust you? Do I really need to be with you? Or is there some strange shit going on with you that I need to really dig into? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
That, I
so
mean, that is so real.
I
That
mean, We
Let's
got to
just
keep
keep
it
it
real
real.
because see, we got to break all of these stereotypes. We got to break all of this misinformation that's been placed in us, and we got to really learn how to. That's why I wore the shirt. We have to really learn how to
Yeah.
step out on faith and
Yes.
stand on that faith. You know what I'm saying? And stand on it. So that's just me. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue to try to learn to be better and do better because I'm still lacking in that area, and I'm willing to admit it. You know what I'm saying? Because
And you
man,
know,
if
we
you
all
don't
have
admit your failures, then how you ever gonna succeed in things?
things to learn. And we've
Yeah.
got a few drop-in guests here. Stephanie, it looks like your camera went out. Is she there? Where's she gonna go?
Mm.
We're gonna see. Maybe it's the connection. It's having some
Come
issues.
on, set a spell on this nice couch. Yes.
Yes. Uh, Stephanie and Crystal, are y'all there?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me
I can
fine?
hear you. I can't see you.
Oh, okay. Girl, I was like, oh, I wanted to drop in. I wanted to do this today. So sorry I'm late. Excuse my tardiness.
There is no such thing as tardy when it's a drop in. You come when you
Sure
want. You come
is.
when you want. So we are glad you're here. We are talking about intimacy and what it means to you and why is it important in your life. So that's our first question when you drop in. What is intimacy to you, Crystal?
Oh, wow. Okay. Intimacy can come in different forms. So it depends on the relationship in which we're discussing, how intimacy shows up. Um, for example, with my friends, an intimate relationship with my friends just means like we share an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that could look different when I'm talking about intimacy with God or intimacy with a partner. So it depends on the context in which we're discussing it, how it shows up for me. But what is a common denominator is that it's vulnerable conversation. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm letting my guard down and we're talking um in a very open, transparent space.
No, I love that. And that's why I want to kind of have this discussion today because intimacy, um, just like DJ Tony said, it is very natural for all of us, right? To
Yeah.
want to connect. Intimacy is just about connecting with people. We want to connect. That is in our nature to connect, to love, and to be loved on many different levels. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we've been talking about is when that connection is forced and when it's broken because somebody has forced that intimacy on you. And then how do you recover from that? Because a lot of times it manifests itself in how we dress, how
Mm.
we now interact with the world,
Yep.
right? So for me, I don't like people coming anytime somebody's coming up for me on the rear. I'm always looking and I'm uber conscious. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
people coming up behind me and touching me, right? There are things that I know I still have to heal from, right? And it makes me not want to connect with people sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in more of a romantic way. It makes me very guarded. But even with friends, I have people that I instantly connect with. And that's kind of how Paulette, DJ Tony, Crystal, that's kind of how it was like almost like instant friendship.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guard against or break or start to break down those barriers when you've started building them up to be open to new connections, new friendships, new relationships of any kind? How do you start to break down those little barriers that you've built up yourself? Because it has to start with you.
Hmm. Um, I'll say for me, how I break those down is number one, I start since I am, I'm not intimate with anyone from a physical perspective. I try to be more open with my children. Because I think one of the things that we don't do enough of, I can say I wasn't raised like that. Let me say that. Stop saying all Black folks. But one of the things that I do even with my son is I am teaching them some new metaphysical techniques, metaphysics. I do teach it, and so I've been teaching them that and teaching them the art of several different ways to stay grounded and to stay aligned vibrationally. So that means talking it out, talking about your feelings, being comfortable talking to me as if I were a therapist or your psychiatrist, right? And just in going through those emotions, and that takes a level of, you have to trust me and I have to trust you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that's one way. And what it's done, I've noticed, is it's drawn us closer. I notice I don't have to discipline. I don't have to discipline
Mm.
at all. And because they're asking questions, like he's asking questions like, well, mother, what did you mean by this when we talked last night? Or, my one of my adult children is actually doing the class with me now, and she's made massive strides. But she attributes it to me being calm, cool, collected. So I think being intimate, like Tony said, like he remembers his mom and so forth, that's a level of intimacy. I want to be sure that my children don't see me as just the single mama tyrant trying to keep the household together now that they, quote unquote, grown. I want them to see me in a light of, she heard me, she genuinely did, and she understands me. And I think that that's important at this age. So for me, those are some of the things that I'm practicing. And like I said, I'll stay in the bed an extra hour if I need to, since I'm up at 4:30 anyway.
First of all, I'm not up at 4:30. You doing that by yourself. I'm gonna be asleep. I'm gonna be asleep. I'm gonna be asleep.
Oh,
So,
so they
do a little radio station identification. You are listening to Wake Up Happy Sis, listening and or watching Wake Up Happy Sis on KCCR The Brownstone, where we are changing the narrative for our Black and brown people by telling our stories our way. So let's talk a little bit about what do I want to bring into? I'm gonna tell a story because I think some of my issues with intimacy go back to birth, and I hate to say that, right? So my mother was, um, how much of this do I want to tell? My mother was right out of high school when she had me. She was doing things that um, illegal things that caused her life to be taken at a young age. So I don't have any recollection of her. That lack, even though my grandmother was great, right? And I see her more as my mother than anything, that brings a level that's a level of that first intimacy that you're supposed to have that I didn't have. That
Mm.
I think colored all of the things. Plus I had a very absent father who
mm,
lived 4 blocks from me, by the way. I just
mm,
I just want to state that.
wow. Yeah.
I met him or re-met him when I was 15, and I confronted him, and he looked at me like, God, you look familiar.
No
Damn,
way.
I should know you. Do I know your mama? That's what he said to me. So I grew up, even though I grew up with love of my family, and we were a very close family, there was
Mhm.
still a part of me that felt like there was a hole, always something missing, that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't something because I didn't have a mama and daddy who loved me, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those initial intimacies, that lack of that intimacy is probably why I'm so mannish now. And I'm very much a lady. I'm very much a lady. But when it comes to relationships and stuff, I think I'm very much guarded, protected. I
Yeah.
think I have more of a masculine energy
But
than, you know, I what go ahead. You said you don't.
you're a tomboy. You're tomboyish. Like you're very feminine. Trust, girl. You got me beat in that department. Um, Me, on the other hand, listen, but you have tomboy. I'll say, oh well, look at this. Hey, TJ Smoking Lou.
All right, DJ Smoking Lou, welcome to the conversation.
Um, you remind me a lot of myself, Leanne, in that you're very soft. Like I said,
I'm a
you're
thug.
listen, you got that down pat.
I'm
You was the
soft, but
one
I'm a
that got a
thug. I'm
dress
a
on
soft
over
thug,
the weekend, right?
Paulette.
I'm just saying, you know. But intimacy is so super, super, super important when we're talking about the self-love portion of it and really getting to know ourselves. And so I here's a question that I have. So because I am a huge tomboy, right? I don't
Hmm.
care who knows it. Um, do you think learning to understand the feminine side of being a woman is necessary in understanding uh, uh, intimacy, self intimacy and care that you were talking about? Is that necessary? Because I throw on a baseball cap. Listen, Jack, and I'm just saying,
I
and
think
it's
you have to
not
be
about
comfortable with who you are.
I even have like boy tendencies. You know what I mean? Like if that's even like a thing, you
That's
know.
okay, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
First, I want to welcome DJ Smoking Lou and Joy to the conversation. So,
Hey, Lou.
welcome. But I think you have to be comfortable with where you are, right? And who you are.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you can't put on a ball gown and be beautiful and be soft.
I'd be
There's
uncomfortable as hell.
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
right? And I
Mhm.
don't know why the cameras, maybe their cameras are off by choice, um, but either way. So, our question when you come to the chat, oh, we lost DJ Smoking Lou. I was just about to ask him his question.
Hey,
Okay,
Rebel.
tell him to come back. Tell him to
Yes,
come back.
here.
I'm back.
Joy, are you here?
I am here.
Hey,
Welcome. Welcome to
Joy.
Wake Up
Yay!
Happy Sis. We are talking about intimacy and self love today. And so, our question for everybody who comes on is what does intimacy mean to you and why is it important?
So you want me to answer the question? I thought I was coming to listen, but hey, y'all, hey, I can definitely participate.
Hey, hey, Joy. But before you answer that question, can I ask the two that's not on the screen? Did y'all take care of them warrants? Cause what happened? Y'all don't want nobody to see y'all face.
Oh, child, it's early, and this is just not appropriate attire for camera. So,
I'm done. I'm done, yo.
so I am here with you, though.
She says she
I
here.
can
She's
come
here.
off. Let me say, I
There
have
you go.
had.
There's that
Hey,
Hey,
beautiful
hey,
face.
hey,
girl.
Hey, Joy.
hey, y'all. Okay, I can give you a little camera love. A little camera love. I'm
Yes.
not too rough over here. Not too rough.
No, you
Never
look
rough.
fine.
I don't think I've
Never.
ever seen you rough.
Yeah, I don't know
You'd be
what
like,
she's
I don't
talking
want to
about.
be on camera. Come on, looking all beautiful and stuff. Come on with
Right.
that.
Yeah. So let me come on and pop on real quick so I can say hey. But I'm listening. It sounds really good so far from what I've heard. Now you know you got to ask me the question again.
What is intimacy to you? Because you're married,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So, what is intimacy to you? And it's not even just romantic or whatever, but what is intimacy to you and why is it
Well, for me, intimacy is definitely touch. You know, when I say intimacy is like into me, see, like that part that touches me, like within. It's just not like all of the outside stuff. So it's
yeah.
like, what am I feeding myself? Mind, body, spirit, and touch that activates something on the inside of me that connects beyond just the outside of me and really makes me respond. So in marriage, of course, my love language is words of affirmation. So when my husband says something to me that's just so great that it makes me feel good, then it's not just outside, but it makes me feel good within because he touched a part of me that was activated and stimulated because that's how I respond to him. When it comes to like personal and just business, it's those parts of me journaling, taking those walks, just that
Yeah.
time and the power of that pause so that I can tap into me, see. And there's power in the pause. So it's my time in prayer. It's my time with the Lord. It's that time
Mhm.
that taps into something in me that makes me better for what everybody else sees. So it's the close touch, mind, body, and spirit, is what it means to me.
I love that. Intimacy.
Yes.
That is
That's
so
right.
cute.
Like,
Yeah.
Joy gonna
Yeah.
bring some new stuff
Intimacy.
to it.
Yeah.
She's gonna bring some new thoughts to it. I love that. I love that. Welcome back, DJ Smoking Lou. So the question that we all are answering is, what is intimacy to you, and or why is intimacy important? Oh, still on mute.
Him downstairs.
I,
Come
I
on.
I'm lost.
I see.
There
I
we go.
see.
You ain't lost no more. We got you,
You
girl. We got you,
downstairs.
girl.
Okay.
So, what is intimacy to you? Oh, you back on mute. Back on mute.
You still muted, Lou.
Can we unmute him?
You know what? I can't unmute somebody if they mute themselves.
He got one of them crazy mics. It got an attitude.
There he
It's got
is.
an attitude.
There we
It's
go.
got a
There
big
we go.
attitude.
So, what's intimacy to you?
Uh, it means a lot to me on a certain level. 17 years ago, I didn't think that I'd be where I'm at right now. I had to become intimate with myself before I was able to become intimate and work on what I had to for my future. Um, it means a lot because the ones around you are where the love comes from, and that's what keeps you going. Um,
Yes.
the woman that I met 17 years ago was with a child that her man left her, and I stepped up to the plate, showed a few of my skills, and did what I needed to. I became intimate with her after about 4 months, and we've been together for 17 years.
Nice.
Now I take care of her grandfather and her son I've taken care of for 17 years. Their family, I needed them to be intimate to me with me for me to successfully prepare myself for what I had coming in the future. You're intimate with everybody around you in your everyday dwellings, and with that, if you don't have your feelers out there to find what you're looking for or the right person, you're going to step into something wrong because there's always them. I've heard you guys speak about this earlier about someone can come in as a wolf in sheep's clothing and
Yes.
you're not even knowing it. So
Mhm.
intimate's a really big thing with me. Everybody that I try to surround myself with, I try to find that there's some way of love that I can give out of my heart. So that's the way I feel about mine.
It's pretty
I love
cool.
that. I
Dig
love
it, dig
that.
it.
So, I got a question for you, Crystal, because you over there all quiet and stuff. I'm just round robining right now. So, what is your self-care? So I think a lot of us have talked about intimacy with ourselves first before we try to be intimate with everybody else. So what are kind of your self-care practices or strategies that you found most effective when kind of connecting or reconnecting with yourself? Starting with you, Crystal. And you're on mute if you're talking because we can't see your face, so we don't know if your lips are moving.
I don't even know if that's really Crystal.
Are you there, Crystal? She may have
I
jumped
don't.
out.
I
Yeah,
don't
she
think
might.
there's anybody back there.
She a busy person. She a busy person. So that we'll just open that up.
I'm here. I'm here. I heard you calling me. I just had to come off of mute. What's up?
So we're talking about what self-care practices do you employ? What do you do for yourself when you need to reconnect with yourself? When that you need to be more intimate with yourself.
Oh, girl. I like I tend to just shut everything down. Sometimes I need to just turn my phone off and just get rid of all the outside distractions for me. Like, and it does for me. It doesn't look like a bath. It doesn't look like a pedicure. Sometimes it just looks like let me just shut down everything and regroup. Let me take a good nap.
Mm-hmm.
Let me I may cry, something may be bothering me where I just need to cry for a moment so I can just get it out. And I'm not a crier, and I'll never
Oh
admit that
yeah.
again. So please. But sometimes it looks different depending on what I need relief from.
Yes.
And then just, okay, now I'm ready to regroup. Let's get back to it.
Now I love that because for me, I'm very much not a crier, um, but the weirdest things will make me cry. Like it'll be someone on a YouTube video or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm crying. But I'm normally not a crier. But I think taking that time out to turn everything off. So what I've been trying to do lately is on the weekends. That's my me time. That's my time for me to reconnect with self, for me to ground myself. A lot of times for me, that's going somewhere where there's water, sand and
Mm,
water. So I have
Yeah.
earth, I have water, I have me, and that connection just flowing, just letting the water flow over me is so calming and soothing to what is normally my mind's normally moving 5 million miles an hour, right? And disconnecting. Like yesterday was no social media. So I come back and I'll respond to everybody today, right? So what about you, Tony? What do you do for yourself when it comes to trying to reconnect with yourself so that you can create stronger, intimate connections outside?
Okay, for me, uh, I'm a crier now. I'm a crier now as a man. As a boy, I was taught it was weak to show emotions like that. You a punk. You ain't supposed to cry. Hold that in. You tough. All that there. And all that while I'm still hurting. You know what I'm saying? I'm still hurting. I'm still damaging me by not releasing that natural emotion of crying because
Right.
that's an instinct in all of us from birth. We
Mm-hmm.
cry out. We cry. We hey, hey, I'm over here. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So I cried today, man. It's like you say, Leah. It's some little things, man. I was watching. I want to dance with somebody, and a scene came up, and I just started bawling, and I'm like, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? But um, for me, I had to tear down all of those damaging things that I was taught as a child, and then learn how to heal. Well, first I had to forgive myself for falling victim to misinformed people who was misinformed all their life. You know what I'm saying? So I had to break that generational curse first. Now today, uh, to keep my relationships intact, I got a prayer closet, and I constantly stay in that prayer closet. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of times it's for other people, but the majority of the time it's for me to get the strength and guidance that I need to make it through the day of entertaining all these different spirits and people who I'm about to deal with during the course of the day. Like
Uh-huh.
Smoking Lou said, we have to beware of those sheep in wolves' clothing. We have to beware of them, you know, uh, with the purpose and the intent not to really try to avoid them because we need them in our life to help educate and elevate us, but to have your receptors up, as Leanne say about that being aware of, like she don't like nobody coming up behind her. I'm like that too. Hey, I don't like nobody coming up behind me because I done seen a whole lot of strange stuff happening with people pretending to be like they gonna walk past you and
Yeah.
so to be aware is to remain alive. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just putting that out there. Please take heed to that. Always be aware of your surroundings in any area where you at. You know what I'm saying? The most important thing in life is you. So you protect you at all costs. You know what I'm saying? And
Amen.
that's how I deal with it. I try to meet people where they at, and when they show me who they are, I believe they ass.
Believe them the first time.
There you go.
Okay, so Lou, let me ask you this. As a man, because I a lot of times for just like you said, Tony, that growing up, a lot of times you're told not to show emotion. You can't be vulnerable. You can't be weak. It's not masculine to do that. And I found when my boys were young, I would do that same thing about the crying thing because that's what we're taught. Boys don't cry. And I had to later correct that, right, in myself, in my believing. So, Lou, as a man, how do you navigate societal expectations around masculinity and strength when it comes to expressing vulnerability and embracing intimacy in your relationships?
Oh, well, that's a big question because there's a lot that goes with all that. In a sense, it's like you can't show no weakness when you're in public because it's like everybody has an eye on you. Uh, when we're secure around our families or our loved ones, it's a totally different atmosphere, and when you're in public, it's a totally different atmosphere. And I call them feelers, but I don't know. Over the years, I've stood around and I've seen and felt out different things in the crowd to try to read people and feel what's coming from them. It doesn't always work. You have to show remorse on some things, and you have to show your sadness also. You gotta wear it on your sleeve, and you know, with experience, I keep gaining every day, and I just go with what I've taught myself over the years. I was one that was my mom passed away when I was 5, so I was brought up in a man's world. My dad took me with him for a few years, and then I was left with my sister, and then I was flew back to my family, which was in South Carolina. So there's a big mix up. I was with one part of my side of my family with my mother's side, and then I was with the other side of my father's side,
Mhm.
which didn't turn out to be the greatest thing in the world because I was showed the wrong things, which made me go in the right direction in my life, but not completely because along them lines, you always have some way you're gonna you trip upon yourself, and you're gonna make that mistake and become
Mhm.
emotional with yourself. And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. You screwed up, and you learn from them things.
Life is about learning. There's nowhere in our life where we're going to be perfect and we're always going to get it right, right? I think my greatest gift has been my ability to bounce back from all the things I've fucked up in life, that I was able to get back up. And one of the things, I'm one of them that I will tell you when it was me. Oh, that I messed up. My bad. I take accountability. I'm big on accountability, right? And I think that as we mess up, we have to try to correct it. And that's what, and I kind of love what Nancy was saying about she talks her boys through crying. And I love and I applaud that she didn't believe in that narrative that men can't cry, that men can't be vulnerable, right? Because we want them to be intimate and to have a level of intimacy when they're adults, but we don't nurture that when they're young. And like Tony said, if you don't know it, you can't show it.
It's kind of like a two-way street.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. We are at the end of our hour. I want to thank you guys for joining us on Wake Up Happy Sis on KCCR Radio. We're just going to do a round robin, just real quick. Who are you and how can people find you? Paulette? We know where they can find you, but yes, you're first. You're the first on my screen.
Um, you can find me on all things Brownstone Worldwide. So brownstoneworldwide.com, where the news and information is housed. KCCR The Brownstone, you can find me there for the day shift, and also the rundown with myself and Cullen. And then also Brownstone Living Magazine. That's where you can find me. There
And
you go.
DJ Tony.
Hey, you can find me at the Eye of the Storm uh, at Spreaker.com. And you can find me also at KCCR Radio, the Brownstone, baby, where we are changing the narrative of how we tell our story our way every Saturday and Sunday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I'm telling you, man, I'm trying to bring the heat. Boss lady, I'm coming for that number one spot. I'm coming.
Okay. Okay.
Crystal.
How you doing? I'm Crystal Daly. You can find me on IG mostly, even though I don't post a lot, but I will answer you. And my IG hook is Crystal, and that's spelled CHRYSTAL runs RUNS.NYC because I do run NYC.
And DJ Smoking Lou.
That's right. You can reach DJ Smoking Lou at twitch.tv. I think it's org. And if you can't find me over on Twitch, you can surely enough find me at the Eye of the Storm with Tony Sanchez. Anytime the man is online, I'm his sidekick, and that's where you can find me.
All right. So I want to thank you guys. Again, I'm Leanne Dulce. I am your host, self-care strategist. You can find me at Dulce and Blay or Wake Up Happy Sis. You look them up. I'm all over these internet streets, so you're gonna find me. So thank y'all for coming. Make sure you stay tuned because we've got what's coming up next, Paulette.
Lunch and Learn is up next, and we are talking to Mercedes Eckert today. We're talking to her about secret shopping. You want to find out how to make full-time income with that? Over $65,000 a year? You might want to log in and listen to kccrthebrownstone.com.
Yes. And then we also have the Nicole Johnson with Girl Your Money Matters this evening, as well as Marshawn Alonian with Love Restored.
Yep.
Oh, see, I've been practicing.
Go on, girl.
Right.
Go on, girl.
Right, get it right. So just stay tuned to everything KCCR, the Brownstone, and the Brownstone Worldwide, because we are telling our stories our way, and we can't do that without you. So y'all have a great day. God bless. Good night or good afternoon.
Bye.
See ya.